Hello, and welcome back for another puzzle video. This time we are on the winter map, and we're piloting the Keepers in Iron on an endgame puzzle. So, let's take a look at the Badger's position on our final turn. We are at 14 points at the back of the pack, but not by much. Currently we've got one way station on the map. That's a figure way station in the bottom left mouse clearing. We do have one relic that's face up. It's in that fox clearing in the lower right, and it's a 3-point tablet guarded by two very brave Badger warriors. The rest of the relics have either been recovered or are stuck in the forests along the right edge of the map. Up to this point, we've recovered 6 relics, very impressive, but a little bit unluckily, we've got all the 1-point relics. However, the Badgers do like to play from behind a little bit. They can often shade their points and go for a big burst in the endgame, exactly like what we're going to plan to do here. Let's start by taking a look at our hand. We have Charm Offensive, Bake Sale, and Root Tea. I'll tuck that away at the bottom of your screen for reference. Let's take a look at the retinue. You'll notice that the retinue is all suited cards except for one Faithful Retainer. We've got 9 cards in there, so almost full. And in the supply, we've got 6 warriors remaining. Of note, we've also crafted saboteurs, so let's keep that in mind. Let's move on to the Eyrie Dynasties. The Eyrie Dynasties having a nice strong game so far. They've got Builder Gym up and running. It's really come in handy as they've been able to craft the coins for full price. The bulk of the Eyrie Warriors are in the northern stretch of the map, kind of bearing down on the clearing with the keep. And the decree is a little thin at the moment, as they are recovering from a turmoil. So let's look at that decree. Here it is. And in hand, the Eyrie have 3 cards. Let's look at the Riverfolk. The Riverfolk Company are in a strong position as well at 16 points. They have 8 funds. And let's take a look at their hand. There's Corvid Planners. There's the Rabbit Bag. We have an Anvil and a Bird Ambush. They've also crafted Coffin Makers. And inside the coffins right now, there are 4 Riverfolk warriors, 3 cats, and 2 birds. And on the board, the Riverfolk's presence is a little light. They only have 3 warriors, but they've done a nice job of getting those trade posts down. In terms of their services, their prices are set to 3 for a hand card, 2 for riverboats, and 3 for mercenaries. And they've crafted a gaggle of items. The Riverfolk are in a very strong position, I'd say. And lastly, let's look at the Marquise de Cat, our current pack leader, with 18 points. The Marquise have weathered some storms, it looks like. They only have 2 recruiters, meaning they're only drawing 1 card per turn at the moment, but they are in control of a couple of open building slots, meaning that I wouldn't count them out necessarily for this game, although their position is getting a little bit uncomfortable. The number of cat warriors in the map is also a little low at the moment, but with some builds and recruits, that could easily change. In hand, they have 3 cards. And let's look at the discard pile before we get into the turn. Here it is. Left in the deck are 17 cards. And that's it. It's time to start our winning turn here with the Keepers in Iron. Now, the first thing that's going to happen during Birdsong is, of course, the Riverfolk are going to ask, would you like to purchase a service? One important detail, there is a Badger warrior in the center left mouse clearing that shares a clearing with a trade post, meaning we can purchase up to 2 services. And we have 6 warriors in the supply with which to do so. So as this is the beginning of our winning turn, I encourage you to pause the video, and I'll give you a few moments to work out your plan to win the game. All right, for those of you who figured out the path forward, congratulations. And for those of you who are just along for the ride, let's walk through the solution together. So to start, we are definitely going to purchase a service from the Riverfolk. In fact, let's purchase 2. Riverboats and mercenaries. We're going to hand over 5 of our warriors from the supply to the Riverfolk. There you go. That means for the rest of our turn, the river will act as a path for the Badgers. And all Riverfolk warriors will be treated as Badger warriors during daylight. Our first step here is to encamp, but before we do, let's use our saboteurs before we do anything else to get rid of the coffin makers from the Riverfolk. Now, this detail really matters because every time we encamp, we're going to take a warrior from the board and return it to the supply in order to place a way station. With coffin makers in play, that warrior would not go to our supply, instead it would go to coffins. But we need it desperately in our supply so that we can recruit it at the end of Birdsong. So this is an important time to do that. And now it's time to encamp. We're going to encamp twice, both times in rabbit clearings, once on the river. We're going to place a tablet way station. And then in the bottom right corner, we're going to place a figure way station. Not going to decamp, and instead moving on to recruit, we're going to discard Charm Offensive to recruit 2 warriors on the river. And with this assemblage of forces, it's now time for us to go on to win the game. So before we dive into Daylight, I want to give a quick shout out to Good Time Society for sponsoring today's video. This is a part of an ongoing series leading up to RootCon 2023, happening in Portland, Oregon, August 19th and 20th at Guardian Games. Come join us for a Root tournament for a live stream with Cole and Joshua, and you'll get to work on a live puzzle of your very own. In Daylight, the first thing we're going to do is craft. We're going to craft both Bake Sale and Root Tea for 5 points. A nice start to our winning turn. That puts us at 19, and from 19, we're looking for those last 11 points from recovering relics. So our first move here in the move column is going to be the rabbit move. We're going to send all 4 keeper warriors along the river to that mouse clearing. Next, we're going to send the 2 keeper warriors plus the relic up from the fox clearing, and then send 2 warriors over to the edge fox clearing on the right. And with our forces arrayed as such, now we are in a position to battle delve. One thing I encourage you to think about when solving puzzles is to imagine the most adversarial continuation, the most kind of challenging scenario. You know, if your opponents had the kind of worst case, you know, an ambush in hand, if they used all of their abilities, keep those things in mind when you're trying to solve. So in our battle delve step, let's initiate a battle in this central river mouse clearing with the Marquise de Cat. And in this adversarial spirit, let's say the Marquise are holding that mouse ambush. That was one ambush that we couldn't keep track of in the discard pile or the retinue or the decree. So let's say they're holding it and they decide to use it against the keepers. Now the first hit, the odd hit, is going to be soaked by Devout Knights, since we have a relic in the clearing. The even hit is going to go to the Riverfolk, so the Riverfolk warrior is kaput. After that ambush, let's say that the most unfavorable roll of the dice happens. It's a 2-2. And we get rid of 2 keeper warriors and 2 Marquise warriors. If it were a 3-0, for example, we would get that bonus point from the cardboard, but we don't want to be factoring that kind of RNG into our decision making. Instead, let's consider the worst case scenario. So 2-2. There we go. We do still rule this clearing at the end of that battle, meaning we can now delve a relic. There's only one type of relic that we should be thinking about delving here, and that is a tablet. So let's grab a tablet from a nearby forest. And again, in this sort of adversarial spirit of thinking, we've grabbed a 2-point tablet, right? The lower bound. So it slides into our clearing. We don't lose the Battle Delve card since we do rule 2 clearings adjacent to this forest. And now for our second battle. Let's choose the fox clearing on the river. We'll initiate it against the Marquise de Cat again. No fear of an ambush this time. But once again, let's assume the worst case scenario at a 1-1 roll, getting a Marquise warrior and a keeper warrior off the map. And now it's time to delve. Since we have hired mercenaries, we still rule this clearing, meaning we can grab a relic. And there's only one choice here. Let's grab that figure from the top right forest. It is a 2-point figure. Okay, just the lower bound. It slides into our clearing. And with that, it's time for the move recover step. We have to take these relics back to a way station where they can be recovered. And hopefully at this point you see the correct continuation. We're going to move our warriors along the river, back to the tablet way station, and down into the figure way station. So that's our fox move and our mouse move. And with our last 2 cards in the retinue, we're going to recover these relics. Now we only rule 2 rabbit clearings. So when we recover in the figure clearing, we have to make sure we recover the 2-point relic first, allowing us to recover the 3-point relic and then discard the card. So we'll do both of those. We'll recover in the bottom right clearing, and all of that together is going to get us 11 points. Right? So it's going to be 7 for the base relics, and then an additional 4 for completing 2 columns. And with that, the keepers reach 30 victory points and win the game. Wow, what a swing. I hope all of you were able to find the solution. Let me know down in the comments which approaches you tried and what you were thinking about during this puzzle. And until next time, I'll see you around the woodland.